Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is a Ukraine war news update, first part thereof for the 9th of November 2025. In the UK, it is Remembrance Sunday, where we wear poppies and the like, such as you might see just there. You'll see a lot of poppies around to remember the fallen in various conflicts, particularly in modern history. So that's worth bearing in mind today as we remember those who have fallen, particularly in the war in Ukraine, and particularly Ukrainians and the not just the soldiers, but the civilians as well, of course. Okay, let's get on with the Ukrainian General Staff figures for the Russian losses for the day before. All the usual caveats apply. You can find them linked in the description below. Before we go there, though, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. That would be absolutely fantastic. Okay, let's get on with it. So we have 970 personnel lost, which is quite a considerable movement downwards in the figures that we've seen for the last 3 days. Actually, it's been well above 1,000 at 1,170, I think it was yesterday or something like that. So around 200 fewer casualties for the Russians yesterday. 5 tanks, so that's nicked back upwards. And then we have a single armored combat vehicle, 19 artillery systems as well to add to the list. No pieces of special equipment, and 85 vehicles and fuel tanks. So somewhat fewer bits of kit and personnel being lost over the last 24 hours. We don't know whether weather is playing a part, but it could well be. It's that kind of time of year. Now, here we have an anecdote coming from Chris O. Wiki as he recounts a Russian soldier fighting near Pokrovsk, says that the area is a scene of carnage with dead Russians lying everywhere. Soldiers' families are being sent death notices even before the men go out into assaults. Only 4 out of his group of 120 men survived one assault. A Russian soldier from Orenburg with the call sign Elephant fighting with the 5th Separate Guards Motorized Rifle Brigade, Military Unit 41698, has given a vivid account of his experiences fighting near Krasnohorivka and Pokrovsk and how he was sent to Ukraine. He says that he signed a military contract in a Western Russian Volga city in Ulyanovsk in April 2024. Afterwards, he and several others, including 33 Indian men, were sent to Ukraine and were immediately confined in a basement near Donetsk to prevent them escaping. Everyone's phones and documents were confiscated, and they were only allowed to go to the toilet or smoke under escort. After 2 months of living under guard in the basement, he was asked to join a tank unit, even though his contract specified a role as a driver. He was taken to a village behind the front line and was put in another basement under armed guard again. He soon found that he had been tricked. Quote, You've arrived with the 3rd Assault Brigade in the infantry, he was told. The men objected, saying, actually, we're from logistics. We shouldn't be here. They promised to pick us up, but were threatened with execution if they made a fuss. Quote, if you talk too much, you won't live long. A few days later, he was sent into the Battle of Krasnohorivka, in which he was one of the few survivors of a failed assault involving 46 Russian vehicles that was mostly disabled or destroyed by the Ukrainians. Quote, on the 12th of September 2024, they took us out, put us in an infantry fighting vehicle, woke us up at 1 in the morning, put us in a bulletproof vests, took our documents, took our phones, put us in the infantry fighting vehicle and sent us off. We were driving toward Krasnohorivka, past Krasnohorivka, about a kilometer further. Between the 10 vehicles, 2 got away. The rest of us, 120 people, they killed us all. Our 2 vehicles returned. The 4 of us got out. We walked for 6 days through minefields behind Ukrainian lines. They hit us with cluster munitions. They shot at us from dugouts from every crevice they could, but we got away. Before reaching Krasnohorivka, we ran into our own outpost. We gave them our call signs and told them everything that had happened, to which they replied, we're bringing you ammunition. You understand, extra ammo, grenades. We're sending you 4 cans of stew, a loaf of bread. And they send us back. They say, we're sending you back because you didn't complete the task. Since we never got there, we were destroyed by drones. It was pure hell there. They mowed us down. I don't know. They didn't even let us raise our heads. Two of the survivors had crippling injuries and had to be left behind by the two remaining able-bodied survivors, one of whom was the soldier in the video. The man was subsequently sent to fight in the Pokrovsk area, which he says is even worse. Quote, people shouldn't see this. They shouldn't hear this. It was just brutal. They were mowing down people as if, I don't know, they were walking across a field and just cutting the grass. There are still corpses lying on the roads there with tanks running over them. There are torn bodies, charred bodies. No one is taking them away. Don't believe those who say they are missing in action. That's not true. That's all. They are lying there in the fields because no one is bothering to remove them. It's just a nightmare. It's hell we've been through. End quote. The soldier blames his commanders, quote, without mortar preparation, without artillery preparation, they simply wiped us out. I'll tell you the truth. They wiped us out. Before they were sent on the assault, he says his commanders told the men, you faggots, you assholes, you're not people, you're meat. You must go. You must kill, go. Now he and a comrade are hiding out on the battlefield, seeking to survive without getting involved in any more assaults and trying to escape the wrath of the commanders, who he says will execute them if they are caught. Right now, we're hiding from everyone, trying to get away, because if they catch us, they'll 100% wipe us out, because we know a lot. There were corpses lying there. I simply can't explain it to you. If I had a phone, I would have filmed it. They were lying there. They're all charred, torn apart, all swollen. He says that his commanders knew that the men would all be killed. The man he was with was declared dead 6 days before the assault. He believes that the commander is hiding the true scale of the losses. The man also says that the commanders, whom he names as Vulcan, the commander, and his deputy Mamai, routinely extort and execute the men under their command. Quote, they were eliminating people, eliminating those soldiers who were undesirable. If the unit loses a drone, the men are forced to pay for a replacement out their own salaries. They demand that I buy them a drone for 300,000 or 400,000 rubles. That's $3,700 to $5,000. And they simply replaced it. It's like that. He appeals to military prosecutors to take action against the commanders and comments, you had to prepare before going there and not just run into machine guns. Some guides ran out, but they were simply torn apart. Those who made it. Those who didn't. They fired on us with cluster munitions and machine guns. I want to tell you one thing. The military prosecutor's office should look into this. I really want this, and I hope this will happen. Okay, so it's just one anecdote there, but it fits in with what we remember from Krasnohorivka, by the way, and also what we've seen from Pokrovsk. I showed you a video, or at least I referenced it because I couldn't show it to you because it was just full of dead bodies of a Russian soldier or a couple of soldiers walking kind of over this incline, and there were just bodies everywhere, charred bodies, like he was saying. Like, I've seen videos to confirm though that sort of account. Absolutely incredible. Right. On the other hand, a warning tonight, last night from the reporter, says Tim White, that I think is Ukraine's most reliable from the front line. This is Bogdan Miroshnikov, who says that things are deteriorating in Zaporizhzhia and Hulyaipole may soon be surrounded. So that's on the southern front. So as people have been thinking about Pokrovsk, worrying about there, maybe there have been Ukrainian soldiers and equipment that's been redirected from Zaporizhzhia up to Pokrovsk, but then there are weaknesses elsewhere therefore in the Zaporizhzhia direction, and we know that the Russians have been advancing south of Pokrovsk in that kind of area. So this is a real worry. I'm not sure if any troops have been relocated from there to support Pokrovsk, says Tim White, but as I speculated, that could well be an issue. So this is what the journalist says. What is happening in the southern part of the Novopavlovsk direction may threaten the surroundings of Hulyaipole. The enemy is obviously aiming for this, and our subsidence continues. So that's actually not just the south. That's kind of the south of the Donetsk front as a moving westwards. And that they can actually then start thinking about, coming at Hulyaipole from the east rather than from the south, because the front line is just kind of south of Hulyaipole, but actually they're coming from the other direction. And considering that the commander of the corps responsible for that area is Mr. Tarnavsky, you definitely shouldn't expect anything good. So quite a damning indictment there. Okay. Now, I reported in my military aid videos recently that the Italians have got out these 8x8 light tanks with guns. Some saying they might be used as kind of snipers. The 105mm kind of equivalent to the the L50? No, anyway, the British barrel, but it's the Italian equivalent. This is their wheeled tank, rather like the AMX 10 RC10 from the French. This is a Centaur B1, but it is already, I believe, working in Ukraine. Here, it's been confirmed in service with the 78th Separate Airborne Assault Regiment that's been outfitted with enhanced armor and grid protection. So, yeah, clearly they need kit like this if they've got it, and then straight away it's been sent to be used on near the front. Russian forces struck a humanitarian vehicle, which I told you about. I showed you the video of this, and they were inside and just ran out to the side as the drone came in and struck the vehicle. Pretty incredible. And it struck on the humanitarian symbol there. Russian forces struck a humanitarian vehicle in Donetsk on the 8th of November with a precision drone. Third attack on this mission in 1 week. The drone hit directly on the humanitarian emblem while Austrian and Spanish journalists were inside. It's interesting that one of the Austrian politicians, was the Austrian foreign minister, was pretty scathing of Russia yesterday. I wonder if it's connected to that. Old fishing nets from France become vital protection against Russian drones in Ukraine. Vive la France. Old horsehair fishing nets from Brittany, once used to catch monkfish, are now shielding Ukraine's front lines from Russian drones. 280 kilometers of repurposed netting sent by Koenig Solidarités is being stretched across trenches and roads, forming traps and snare drones like flies in a web. So that's really awesome. Their fishers from Brittany coast are sending their horsehair nets to catch weapons and shield civilians and soldiers. Awesome stuff. That's what we like to see. Moving on to Ukrainian resistance forces. Again, we're seeing on consecutive days that partisans are being pretty successful all over Russia, really. Ukrainian resistance forces reportedly destroyed 4 key Russian military logistics targets in late October. 3 communication towers were set ablaze in Stolitomak and in Bashkortostan, and a railway relay cabinet was taken out near Vologda. So, yeah, they are having some success all over Russia. Now, this was shown yesterday, quite incredible. This is the helicopter that crashed, killing a number of people. And I said might have been a helicopter that was put on the loss list yesterday, but I think that would be fairly odd. Anyway, just makes you, just if only they could have turned their engine off as they hit the water just here, because look, I mean, the back is completely smashed, that tail, and then oh dear, and it kind of lands in the sea. That's when it should have turned its engines off, but instead it takes off again and it gets into all sorts of trouble and then crashes over the edge, I think, of a hill to the right there as it comes back sort of inland here. Anyway, that led to the deputy director and chief designer and chief engineer of the major military contractor Kizlyar electromechanical plants dying in, I mean, it says a comical helicopter crash. I wouldn't use those words. In occupied Dagestan, the company designs and produces a large variety of electronic components for military aircraft. Yeah, so Russian Ka-226 helicopter crashes there, killing weapons plant employees. The Kizlyar electromechanical plant produces equipment for Russian Sukhoi and MiG aircraft that has been sanctioned for its role in the war against Ukraine. And those are the people who died there. Chief engineer, chief helicopter construction instructor, deputy director of the sanctioned Kizlyar plant that makes avionics for Russian military aircraft. So just some more information there, and actually, might have had at least somewhat significant connection to the war. Okay, on to distance strikes, and 69 drones were sent into Ukraine last night. At some point, I'm hoping we're going to see a real dip in the number of drones sent into Ukraine because of the depot that was struck the other night that supposedly held 1,000 drones and 1,500 drone warheads, Shahed type drones. This could be the start of it. I don't know, but they do go up and down. Anyway, 69 drones sent in, 34 were shot down, which leaves a good 35 still to have got through. So that's not a good. That's like 50%, just under 50% interception rate. That is terrible, really, comparatively speaking. So really struggling to shoot down these drones at the moment, the Russians. The Ukrainians. French aid to Ukraine has said that Jean-Noël Barrot, the French foreign minister, has welcomed the Sky Shield France initiative, which has garnered considerable support, including from prominent French political figures. So this is the idea that the European neighbours could support Ukraine by having some kind of no-fly zone or protected area within Ukraine that they operate in, something I've been calling on for weeks and weeks and, well, months, really. He also announced that French diplomacy, I mean, we talked about this like years ago as an idea, but actually saying it should definitely be happening now. Like, I fully advocate for this right now. He also announced that French diplomacy would carefully follow the work carried out by the Sky Shield France initiative. If I just see, so this is from a month ago, on October the 9th, the authors of the French Sky Shield initiative met with advisors to Emmanuel Macron to discuss the technical feasibility of deploying military aircraft to protect Ukrainian airspace from Russian drones and missiles. Absolutely think that that should be something that we collectively in Europe are doing. OSINT Technical here says the first released onboard footage of a UK-supplied Raven surface-to-air missile system in Ukrainian service shooting down Russian Kh-59 and Kh-101 cruise missiles. The Raven, which was built from scratch by British engineers in a matter of weeks, has proven to be a highly effective, low-cost system. So it fires air-to-air missiles from the ground, AMRAAM missiles, I believe, has a couple of them loaded on the back and uses the Supercat chassis. They basically hobbled together this kind of not quite Frankenstein sort of thing, but they devised this. It's not like two separate air defense systems put together or whatever. But they very quickly devised this, and they've got a number of these out to Ukraine, and they are having some pretty decent success in shooting down cruise missiles in this case, which is absolutely fantastic. So that's some really useful footage showing the success of these Raven systems. Excellent stuff. Thank you to the UK for providing those. And indeed, we hear that some Russian Grand 2 Shahed drones have recently started flying very low again. So they used to fly quite low, then they would get shot down. So they moved them up to 4 kilometers. And actually, recently, we just saw an interceptor drone take out Shahed at 7.5 kilometers, 7,500 meters up in the air. So they're trying to get away. They're always adapting, trying to get around the problems. And I guess Ukraine is trying to deal with the issues far up in the sky. And now they're bringing them, for one reason or another, back down to flying low, or, mixture of all of the above. So this mobile fire team hunts them with a Ukrainian-made remotely controlled turret with a 12.7mm Browning M2 machine gun and a paired 7.62mm PKT machine gun here. Remotely controlled, so that's interesting. That's just loaded on the back of a SUV there. And I guess they can operate it from inside the vehicle. So the Ukrainians do have lots of ways of taking down drones in all of these different contexts, but they are still struggling. The Russians are able, I mean, it could be that many of those drones are sent really close to the front line, so it's very difficult to shoot them down. You don't have any time to shoot them down. If they are slammed into Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, Konstantinivka, those kind of areas, then good luck, because you're not going to be. You don't have really any air defenses stationed to the east of those cities. They'll be too close to the front lines and be easily taken out by Russian drones. So it becomes very difficult. So that could be why there was a poor interception rate. Right, Kharkiv was plunged into darkness yesterday. The hum of generators filling the air then, as reported before, says Anton Gerashenko, as a result of a massive Russian attack on the night of November the 8th, so 2 nights ago, not last night, but the night before. The attacks were really, really significant. Several large energy facilities in the Poltava, Kharkiv, and Kiev regions were damaged. Poltava keeps getting targeted by the Russians, no doubt because there's very important energy infrastructure there. And as a result, there were sort of blackouts all over Ukraine yesterday. Kiev was also in a complete blackout last night. Now, I'm quite down about Ukraine's situation at the moment. I think that this is all very unsustainable. that there's no way that Ukraine can. Well, but it's looking bad for the winter for Ukraine in terms of Russia's ability to hit the energy infrastructure there. They have lost their entire gas production, it seems. I mean, that is huge. We're not talking about 20%. Oh, that's huge. 30% gas production. No, they've lost the entirety of their gas production. Some people argue. DTEC, one of their big companies, is really, really suffering. Moment of Russian drone hitting a multi-story building in Dnipro. This was from 2 nights ago when Dnipro was targeted. They're going to have a day of mourning because of the 3 who were killed in an apartment block there. That would have been that strike that you're seeing there. Horrific stuff from the Russians. And then Russia's targeted substations and that power nuclear plants during large-scale overnight attacks, according to their Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha. So this again 2 nights ago, targeting the energy substations that power the Khmelnytsky and Rivne nuclear power plants overnight on the 7th to 8th, amid its large-scale attack on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Quote, "These were not accidental but well-planned strikes. Russia is deliberately endangering nuclear safety in Europe," Sybiha remarked on social media. Europe really does need to, I just think we need to change it up. We need planes inside Ukraine. Russia uses North Koreans and no one bats an eyelid. We need to be super strong now. There's a growing political situation in Europe that is growing in favor. I mean, I know the Netherlands has just had an election that's looking quite good, but you didn't lose the right wing, far right. They just got split there. So they left like the PVV and went to Yard 21 and another party. You've got France 2027. Emmanuel Macron's he's gone, and then you're probably going to have the far right there. Germany's holding on at the moment. Britain, I mean, our politicians in Britain, I was just looking at Twitter this morning. It's just a massive torrent of abuse for the BBC, for the government. All the norms and institutions are being absolutely attacked. And the only person that wins here, and this will be fomented by, but the only people who win are Russia, really. Well, and China, maybe North Korea, Iran. This is happening around Europe. Europe needs to act now, right now. Otherwise, I think you are going to see a real growth in some of these really big countries, the Frances and the Germanys and the Italys and the UKs and the Spains of the world. I think populism is going to explode, and that's only going to favour Russia. So I do worry for Ukraine here. DTEC power plant has been seriously damaged by a Russian attack, again 2 nights ago. According to DTEC, Ukraine's largest private energy company, Russia has attacked its thermal power plants over 210 times since the start of the full-scale invasion. Just absolutely insane. Now, on the other hand, Ukraine has been trying to do the same in Russia. As of this morning, November the 9th, photos and videos have surfaced showing damage to the Voronezh thermal power plant number 1, says Tataragami. It was hit by Ukrainian forces last night. According to local media, the facility is a main supplier of heating for homes and to more than 1,000 businesses in Voronezh. So this has been hit apparently by missiles. A video from the site after the attack shows damage to several buildings, suggesting a high likelihood of a multi-drone or missile strike. The destruction appears severe enough to disrupt the city's heating supply. Okay, so somebody says it doesn't look damaged enough, needs another visit. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's hard to know how severe damage is often with these attacks. The Voronezh power station in Russia was targeted. As you can see, Voronezh isn't too far from Ukraine. It's just one oblast over, really. You go across Belgorod, you get to Voronezh there. The main generator room was severely compromised, is a claim from Tendar. No report says 3 missiles hit the newly built energy block of Voronezh TPP1. That stands for thermal power plant. 2 struck the boiler building, damaging steam generators and turbines linked to LM6000 gas modules. Another pierced the roof, likely hitting the turbine hall. The strike caused a drop in power and heat supply across the city. So hopefully that has done enough damage to, cause some issues. And indeed, Voronezh is being attacked as we speak. So this morning, the air raid sirens have been going off. Right, I've just been listening to the air raid sirens over Voronezh. Another missile attack has taken place. Don't know what has been hit, but there are lots of videos of the city of Voronezh and whatnot. Here we have Voronezh residents sharing their views on the consequences of Russia's so-called SMO in their own city. The rumble continues in various areas of Voronezh. Many people report their windows shake and their car alarms go off. Keep calm. Don't go near the windows. Usually at night on Monday, but here it seems to be in advance or it's a warm-up. Impossible to remain calm. I grabbed my son by the scruff of the neck and dragged him into the hallway. We're still shaking the kitchen, and so on and so forth. So fire trucks on their way, etc., etc. Then they wonder why the internet is turned off. So the internet's obviously been turned off. So this is Voronezh really suffering, and you might go, well, yeah, you need to understand what it means to suffer in this war, because this is what you do to and have been doing to Ukraine, your government, for 4 years almost now. Confirmed a substation, 110 kilovolt substation, the T25 in Taganrog. So that's, I don't know if we've got it. Yeah, Taganrog is basically, if you look at this map, it's just here. So this is the Sea of Azov. You've got Crimea down here, Sea of Azov in the northeastern corner of the Black Sea, and then Taganrog's about there, somewhere like that. Anyway, so that a substation there has been hit. As a key node connecting high voltage trunk lines to the city's power grid, its failure explains widespread outages across several districts. Explosions hit Taganrog this morning, knocking out power to multiple districts. Preliminary results say transformer caught fire at a substation, and a shutdown has occurred. And you can see various videos and images of this fire in Taganrog. So that's another substation hit there. Indeed, I think there are probably a number of substations hit overnight. Yesterday's local reported about bright blue flash and a power outage at the 220 kilovolt Sorochinskaya substation in Sorochinsk-Orenburg region. There are also problems in other regions, according to Exile Nova. It's not necessarily a drone, but the consequences of system attacks on large nodes of 500 to 750 kilovolts are already felt deeper in the network. So it might, you might have an explosion at a substation and you think, oh, it's been attacked by a drone. No, it's just exploded because it can't cope with the loads being put through various parts of the system, because other parts of the system and key logistical nodes in that system have been blown up. So after each hit, the Russian power system, says Max 25, is forced to redistribute flows, and weak points begin to burn themselves. So this is what Ukraine will be wanting, just a cumulative pressure on Russia's entire energy system. 20,000 people lost power in Belgorod last night after strikes targeted the Luch thermal power plant there, not for the first time either. Ukraine hit 2 Russian power facilities in one day, while Russia continues to campaign against Kiev's grid. So we see some images coming from Luch. Gas turbines at the Luch thermal power plant in Belgorod were damaged in a missile strike, according to local media. Other sources say only transformers there were hit, so it's no one's 100% sure. It's unverified at the time, but there were power cuts in Belgorod, as you can see there, and lots of people talking about it on the socials last night in Russia. We have this very striking image, but I guess it depends what your filters are and how zoomed in you are. Drones attacked a substation in Koronova in Kursk region as well. But just going back to Belgorod, it's dark in Belgorod. An attack was carried out on the Luch thermal power plant, subject to attacks previously. So yeah, stuff on fire there. So that's both Belgorod and Kursk, it seems, were under attack. A fire broke out a petrochemical facility in Kazan in Russia. Authorities claim it was due to technical work, but debris is far more likely, or indeed a direct hit by drone. I doubt it's a missile. It's probably quite far away. It could be, of course, you got the range of the FP5 Flamingos. Kazan, a torch is burning in Kazanoginsense. The reasons are unknown. So there is claim of something, I think, being on fire there. Something being hit, one would have thought. And then explosions were also reported near Simferopol on the Crimean Peninsula at the Simferopol airport as Russian air defenses opened fire in Frontline. That's been targeted a whole heap of times in the last couple of weeks. Just 30 minutes earlier, several Ukrainian drones were seen flying over Jankoy district. So Jankoy's up here. That is the logistics hub. You can see the railways going through there. Railways and roads go through Jankoy. And then you got Simferopol and Frontline, which keep getting mauled at the moment. So we might get news emerging throughout the day, really, on any number of places that were targeted. Indeed, here we have some imagery coming from Frontline in Crimea, where an ammunition warehouse exploded, and you've got videos catching that happening. You've got secondary explosions going off, as you can see from the flashes there. I'm not going to play the sounds, but you get the point. And then here we have a strike has also hit the location of an ammunition depot of Russia's 1307th Regiment. I don't know where this is, though, to be honest. It could well be back in Crimea, but it could be somewhere else. Secondary detonations were reported. So it looks like there were quite a few places that were targeted last night by the Ukrainians. As mentioned, more information will emerge throughout the day, but that works both ways, of course, and there could be more information emerging about strikes inside Ukraine. Just seeing. Right. God, yeah, again, same thing is the same thing is happening in Argentina. I made the English translation for you. Do something to get me out of here. He went to Russia to study and ended up in a war. Gianni Dante Batiga, 23-year-old from Tierra del Fuego, traveled to Russia in February to study the language and ended up in the war front in Donetsk, enlisted in the Russian army after signing a contract. Persuaded by two classmates, he decided to sign up with a private company that recruits soldiers, which would allow him to earn a monthly salary and obtain a residence permit. Gianni's only condition was not to be part of the Russian army, so he'd obviously learned enough about it. But I mean, Russia just able, as we heard earlier, 33 Indian recruits in that guy's unit in Krasnohorivka. Just, yeah, there is an asymmetry there that I think is really, really significant. Yeah. Anyway, on to other bits and pieces now. So, we're actually going sort of back to the strikes on energy, but the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has received backup power for the first time in 6 months. So this is one at Enerhodar on the south coast of the Zaporizhzhia reservoir, as it was, but it's been struggling because even though it's kind of a power plant that generates power, it needs power in order to continue operating in a safe manner at kind of, or not even properly operating, but not blowing up, essentially. And because each side claims that the other side keeps hammering away at the energy logistics in the area, it's not had backup power for 6 months. First time in 6 months that backup power has been received after the Ferrosplavna 1 line was restored on November the 8th during an IAEA, so International Atomic Energy Agency, organized ceasefire. The agency said the IAEA warned the external power situation remains extremely fragile. So fingers crossed that stays safe. Russia has handed Roskomnadzor the keys to the entire internet on October the 27th, is a claim here from War Translated, letting the agency reroute traffic, flip the censorship switch, and isolate the Russian web at will starting March the 1st. Officials insist it's all for the Russians' online safety. Now, this is something that Russia's been aiming to do for some time, which is to create not an internet, but its own intranet, whereby it's got its own closed system that would make it much safer from foreign influence, of course, but it means that they can entirely control the internet of the population, the internet usage of the population, and they won't be connected to the rest of the world. That is, we were talking yesterday about Russia's Iranization, which is they're getting used to being completely isolated via sanctions, which is what has happened in Iran. Over the decades, Iran has been sanctioned, and they've kind of adapted to live within that context, and Russia appears to be doing the same. It's going to hurt Russia and the Russians, but they will just adapt, and before you know it, there'll just be some vassal state of China operating as a quasi North Korea, completely isolated, or isolated but connected maybe to Russia, North Korea, and Iran. Okay, Tim White said, and so it begins with Trump's utter weakness again exposed to the world. This was with regard to Hungary being given an annual or year-long exemption by Trump because his mate Victor said, "Oh, these sanctions are really going to hurt us. Can you not sanction us for a year?" And Trump goes, "Yeah, sure. You're a fellow autocrat. I'll help you out there, mate." And of course, the floodgates are going to open. So now President Vucic from Serbia has announced he plans to jointly with the Russian side request that the US suspend sanctions against the Serbian oil company NIS. And. Because Trump is weak. He is absolutely pathetic. After returning from Ukraine, US Ambassador to NATO Matthew Whitaker stated that Europe should increase support for Ukraine and investment in its own defense. Whitaker said, "I believe Europe must do more. First, they need to provide more support to Ukraine. This is a European war. Second, they need to invest more and more quickly in their own defense and security. We are helping them with this, but they have systemic problems that need to be addressed, particularly related to the defense industry and the increase in production." So not that what he's saying is not true at all. But I think this is an interesting position. Well, it's a completely predictable position, which is the US want to step away from this conflict and want to step away from European security, even though it is in their best interest. But I don't want to relitigate that whole argument. And they essentially want Europe to take on fighting this war and just sell them, 1, weapons, and 2, LNG, hydrocarbons. So what we want to do from an American point of view is just make lots of money out of this war. You guys go and fight it. We're not interested. But aren't you in charge of NATO and Europe? Yeah. But anyway, whatever. It's your guys' war. Yeah, but isn't this all a result of like NATO and 70 years of Cold War? And this is the latest manifestation. And that was your war. That was you. You're at the forefront of that ideological. Yeah. But anyway, this is your war. So you need to buy more stuff from us, and then you need to buy more stuff from us. Yeah, that was it. So buy more stuff from us and buy more stuff from us. Thank you very much. And that's how we're, scare quotes, helping. Okay. That's how I interpret it. But it's also true that Europe does need to do more. And we need to have a no-fly zone over Western Ukraine. And we need to have NATO boots on the ground. But, will Whitaker and the US agree to any of that? I don't know. An owl has knocked down a Russian reconnaissance drone. Even the wildlife hates you, Russia. This is awesome. An owl just completely takes out the drone. Well, it attempts to take out a drone. I don't know what happened to the drone after that. Let's just assume it fell to the ground. Good stuff, Owly. That's what we like to see. Anyway, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your support. Please spare a moment today to think about those who have fallen in conflict, particularly those fighting for freedom and fighting for our futures. It is super, super important. These sacrifices are the ultimate sacrifice.